There is no doubt we are living in very important and prophetic times. There are so many things happening in this world that sometimes it's so difficult to even keep in tracking everything that's going on. And prophecy is basically unfolding before our own eyes. And sometimes it's going unnoticed. And that's why we need to be so attentive and paying attention to what Yahushua was all the time saying, that we need to have ears to hear and we need to have eyes to see everything that is going on in this world. And we need to see all of that through the lenses and through the light of the word of Yahuwah in order to understand where we are in the prophetic timeline of his word. Today, while I'm recording this video, Pope Francis already passed away a few days ago, and also the chairman of the World Economic Forum just resigned. I think it was yesterday. And both things happened just in a week. It looks like, with everything that's going on, it looks like that everything is converging this year. And I think it's on the earth, there's this feeling, and I have this feeling inside me for a while already, that something is going to happen this year. Something prophetically, very important, is going to happen this year. And we need to be so prepared for anything and everything. And without fear, because, more powerful is the one that is with us than the one that is in the world. But at the same time, without having that fear of what's going on, we need to be attentive in order to understand what is our role in this generation. To be attentive to understand what's going on and what's next, in order to bring this word of warning to the people around us, in order to bring the good news even with more importance and with more diligence to the people around us. Just to tell them what's happening, because there's so much confusion going on in the world, and we are able to see these things through the light of the word of Yahuwah, and that we know what's going on and we know what's coming, our responsibility, and that's why we have been called for, our responsibility is to bring that light to others. So in today's prophecy update, I want to focus in the figure of Donald Trump, and my intention is not to try to understand who Donald Trump represents in Bible prophecy. I just want to highlight, and should not be a surprise to any of us, that he has been a key role, a key person when we talk about Bible prophecy unfolding. During his first mandate, many things happened, and just to mention some of them is that he was the first president of the USA to declare Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. None before of him had that power and that willingness to do so, because they were afraid of the consequences, the political consequences, but he did it. And we know that declaring Jerusalem as the capital of Israel somehow is so important from a prophetic point of view. Also, during his first mandate, he was the one pushing forward for a peace agreement. And we know that in previous years and decades, many peace agreements were signed in the Middle East. But this one particularly was bigger in scope, and many Arab countries signed peace with Israel and to start opening trade between Israel and those countries. And it is expected, and I'm talking about the Abraham Accords, and it is expected since then, and it's my belief, is that it's going to happen very soon, is that Saudi Arabia is going to be part of that peace agreement too. And that's going to be an additional step in Bible prophecy. Also, we need to remind ourselves is that it was during his first mandate, is that this plague that attacked all of us a few years ago appeared in the world. And I don't want to connect this quote-unquote plague that happen in the world with the responsibility of Donald Trump or anybody else, and this is not the intention, not at all, is that it's just curious that the world, as we know, changed dramatically, and many things unfolded, prophetically speaking, during that time, during that period of time. And it happened when he was somehow in charge. I have been sharing with you as well is that many rabbis from Israel are calling him the Messiah of Edom. That should not be a coincidence for us and should raise some red flags that something's happening, prophetically speaking. So today, specifically, I want to focus the attention of what's going on today as we speak. And Donald Trump announced a few weeks ago the famous or infamous Liberation Days, depending on how you look at it. And everybody knows that, and everybody says that this is basically a trade war, a tariff war. And it should not be a surprise if we look at it with our eyes, with worldly eyes. This is exactly what's going on. Basically, two powerful nations are fighting each other in order to understand who is going to be in control over the world, over the trade, over the financial side, and the economy of the world. This is what's going on before our eyes. But again, we should not focus on what's happening in the world, because we are in the world, but we are not of the world. This is what Yahushua said, and we should remind ourselves every day and every moment about that statement of Mashiach, remembering that we are in this world, but we are not of it. So everything, even though that we need to fulfill some daily responsibilities and duties in this world, and it's our obligation as a good believer, in order to give a good testimony, to do so, we should not look at things with the eyes of this world. We should look at things with the eyes of the kingdom of Yahuwah, to understand what times we are living in. So I want you to just pay attention to his declaration, his speech, when he declared the Liberation Day. So let's listen to what he said.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Nice crowd. What a good-looking group of people. Well, we have some very, very good news today, and a lot of good things are happening for our country. Please sit down. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. We're going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. American steelworkers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen, we have a lot of them here with us today. They really suffered gravely. They watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. We had an American dream that you don't hear so much about. You did 4 years ago, and you are now, but you don't too often, and for many years and decades even, you didn't hear too much about. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple. Can't get any simpler than that. This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. For years, hardworking American citizens were forced to sit on the sidelines as other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense. But now it's our turn to prosper, and in so doing, use trillions and trillions of dollars to reduce our taxes and pay down our national debt, and it'll all happen very quickly. With today's action, we are finally going to be able to make America great again, greater than ever before.
So, did you hear that? What he said? If not, let me play again.
For years, hardworking American citizens were forced to sit on the sidelines as other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense.
Okay, if you didn't manage to got it, let me repeat what he said. And this is textual. This is exactly the phrase he said. Quote, other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense. I'm just reading the quote that I wrote. I have it written in my notes. So let me read it again. He said, other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense, unquote. So basically what he's saying, and let's remember that he imposed tariff over all the nations that are making trade deals with the United States of America. Basically, this is the entire world. So he's saying, all the nations of the world, I'm just paraphrasing what he said, all the nations of the world had made themselves rich and had become powerful, much of it because of the United States of America. Again, let me read it again. He said, other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense. What he's saying is that basically the entire world have become rich because of the United States of America, if we want to rephrase it. And if you are still asking, what is this about and how this is related to Bible prophecy, is very indeed important, because he is basically declaring almost word by word something that is written in a very important prophecy in the book of Revelation chapter 18. And we will read it. I want us to read it together, the entire chapter, and you will see that his statement is so connected, almost word by word, to what is written in this prophecy about Babylon the Great. So let's go to Revelation chapter 18, and I'm going to highlight some of the verses, and you will see the connection to that statement from Donald Trump. And it says the following, beginning in the verse 1. And after this I saw another messenger coming down from the heaven, having great authority, and the air was lightened from his steam. And he cried with a mighty voice, saying, Babel the great is fallen, and has become a dwelling place of demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, and a haunt for every unclean and hated bird, because all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her whoring, and the sovereigns of the earth have committed whoring with her. And listen to this, what's coming. It says, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the power of her righteous living. Let me read it again. And the merchants of the earth have become rich through the power of this city, Babylon. The merchants of the earth. It's talking about the earth. Everybody, the nations, have become rich. What Donald Trump said, the other nations, the nations of the world, got rich. It's almost textual, word by word. Let's continue. Verse 4. And I heard another voice from the heaven saying, come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, unless you receive all her plagues, because her sins have piled up to reach the heaven, and Elohim has remembered her unrighteousness. Render to her as she indeed did render, and repay her double according to her works. In the cup which she has mix for her double, as much as she esteemed herself, and lived riotously. So much torture and grief give to her, because in her heart she says, I sit as sovereignness, and I am not a widow, and I do not see mourning at all. Because of this, her plagues shall come in one day, death and mourning and scarcity of food. And she shall be burnt up with fire, because Yahweh Elohim who judges her is mighty. And the sovereigns of the earth who committed whoring and lived riotously with her shall weep and mourn over her, when they see the smoke of her burning, standing at a distance for fear of her torture, saying, Woe, woe, the great city Babel, the mighty city, because your judgment has come in 1 hour. And the merchants of the earth, and this is so important because let's remember what's happening today with as soon as the tariff were imposed, what it means, commercially speaking, that the countries that are making deals, trade deals with the United States, now they're not going to be able to sell with the same price. So people are not going to buy their merchandise, their products, their services, because it's going to be higher, at a higher price. So having that in mind, let's read what is coming in the verse 11. And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn over her, because no one buys their merchandise anymore. Merchandise of gold and silver and precious stone and pearls, and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet, and all citron wood, and every object of ivory, and every object of most precious wood and bronze and iron and marble, and cinnamon and incense, and fragrant oil and frankincense, and wine and oil, and fine flour and wheat, and cattle and sheep, and horses and carriages, and bodies and lives of men. And the fruit that you're being longed for has gone from you, and all your riches and splendor are lost to you, and you shall find them no more, not at all. The merchant of this, and listen again, the merchants of this, those who became rich by her, shall stand at a distance for fear of her torture, weeping and mourning and saying, Woe, woe, the great city that was dressed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour such great riches was laid waste. And every shipmaster and every passenger and sailors and as many as worked the sea for their living stood at a distance and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What is like this great city? And it's important, let me put a stop here, because there is a connection between the merchants of the earth with the chief masters. And this, what is talking about? It's talking about is the global trade system through the sea. You know, that's how the global trade system works in our world today. And then let's continue. I will give you additional insights, but let's finish this. And it says in the verse 19, and they threw dust on their head and cried out, weeping and mourning and saying, Woe, woe, the great city in which all who had ships on the earth of the sea, and this is the connection, woe, woe, the great city in which all who had ships on the sea became rich by her wealth. For in 1 hour she was laid waste. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and use it up our miseries and profits, for Elohim has completely avenged you on her. And one mighty messenger picked up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, With such a rush the great city Babel shall be thrown down, and shall not be found any more at all. And the sound of harpists, and musicians, and flautists, and trumpeters shall not be heard in you any more at all. And no craftsman of any trade shall be found in you any more at all. And the sound of a millstone shall not be heard in you any more at all. And the light of a lamp shall not shine in you any more at all. And the voice of a bridegroom and bride shall not be heard in you any more at all. For your merchants were the great ones of the earth. For by your drug sorcery all the nations were led astray. And in here was found the blood of prophets and set apart ones, and of all who were slain on the earth. It is true, and we have to recognize this, that prophecy is not easy to understand. And we can have multiple interpretations. The only thing we have to do is to rely in the Ruach of Elohim to guide us in all truth. Because it's Yahushua, through the Ruach of Elohim, the one who is going to reveal the true interpretation of prophecy. Maybe you are not in accord with me with the interpretation of this Bible prophecy. But one thing that we should be in agreement is that there's no doubt that the declaration and the speech and the words that Donald Trump used in his speech for the Liberation Day are almost a word by word to what is written here. What's happening when we look into the world and how the global system works today is that, and you can look into this information, the expert says that the United States of America are still the biggest, the largest consuming market in the world. So everybody wants to, all the merchants of the world, all the countries of the world, all the companies and the entrepreneurs and the startups of the world want to sell their products in the market of the United States market, because they can reach to more potential customers. They can secure more income, more revenues to their companies. But now with tariff, it's becoming more difficult for them to sell because their price in the United States market are going to be in a higher price. So most probably those potential customers are going to decide for another product and not theirs. So I have been sharing this in the past, is that in my understanding of prophecy, there are two Babylons. There is the mother that is written in the chapter 17 of the book of Revelation, the mother Babylon, mystery Babylon, and the daughter of Babylon. And it's my belief that the description of the chapter 18 is related to the daughter of Babylon. And as it is written, there is a city, and it's my belief that that city is the description of New York City. And I have been sharing this with you in the past. When we see New York City is the capital of the financial world, is where the stock markets, the most important stock markets that are basically managing the financial system of the world and the economy of the world, are there in the city. It happens to be is that beside the sea. So once again, maybe you are not in agreement with me with this interpretation, and that's okay. But one thing, I'm sorry to be repetitive, but it's important. One thing that we should be in agreement, that is not coincidence. In our times, in the scriptures, they are not coincidence at all. And the only fact that Mr. Donald Trump used that statement, when we compare to what we have read in the chapter 18 of Revelation, it should raise the alarms, the prophetic alarms to each one of us. It should open our ears and our eyes to understand this is not coincidence. Something is going on. This is something related to prophecy being unfolded before our eyes. And maybe it's not going to happen now, but can you imagine if in one moment or the other, the economy of the United States collapse? And I know that most of you that are listening maybe to this video are living in the United States. And this should not be something to put us with the fear in our hearts. To the contrary, everything that's going to happen in the world is going to happen everywhere, no matter where we live. Because what is going to happen, and we know what's next, is that the system of the beast is going to be put in place, and it's going to control the entire world. It's what they want to impose, is a new system. This is exactly what's happening before our eyes. So, but let's imagine just for a minute, it could happen now, it could happen in a matter of weeks or maybe months. This year, we don't know. That the economy of the United States collapse. What's going to happen with the rest of the world is going to be a domino effect. And what's going to happen with trade is exactly as we have been reading in the chapter 18. Nobody from those countries are going to be able to sell their goods, their products, their services. It's going to be a bigger collapse of the economy, of the financial system. They're going to replace it with the final system of the beast. So There is no doubt, and it should not be no doubt in our hearts, that we are living in the last days. It should be no doubt. We should have no doubt in our hearts that we are that last generation, that generation that will see the return and the coming of Messiah. And though that we need to keep an eye on what's going on, just to understand the prophetic timeline, we should not allow that noise and the fear of the world to get into our spirit. To the contrary, we as children of light, we need to be attentive to understand and to warn the people around us about what's going on. But most importantly, it should give us the time and the additional push to put our hope and expectation up there. And what's that hope and expectation? Is that if we are seeing these things happening, it's because the true King of the world is coming, and is coming soon. And that true King is Yahushua, the Messiah. And also, if we know that we are that generation and the Messiah, Yahushua, is coming soon, it should awaken us. It should give us an additional intention and attitude in our hearts in order to fulfill the will of Yahuwah in our lives. He gave us life in this last generation. It's because He saw something in you and me. And it's up to us to fulfill His desire, the desires of His heart. We have no time to waste. The time that we are living and the time that He's given us, we need to use it in order to fulfill the desire of His heart. So we are in this world, but we are not of the world. So let's focus to feel and fulfill the desires of the heart of Elohim by doing His will through our lives, by allowing Yahushua HaMashiach to live through us, so we are able to be ready when He's coming. And not only that, so we are beginning more than ever before to prepare the ground for His soon coming. So Yahuwah be with you all, and thank you so much for watching this video. I see you in the next one.